To reframe is to offer a new interpretation or viewpoint for an experience. It has the effect of challenging and introducing doubt into old, unproductive beliefs. By offering a reframe to a client, you demonstrate that you see the client's situation and ideas as something other than fixed, rigid conditions which are unlikely to change. Reframing means to change the conceptual and/or emotional setting or viewpoint, and to place it in another frame which fits the facts equally well or even better, and thereby changing its entire meaning. For example, when somebody says, "I never seem to make decisions, it takes me a long time to make up my mind," and they're self-critical, a reframing response might be, "So you take time to weigh things up. Don't they say that there's wisdom in caution?" In other words, we might not be able to change the facts, but we can change the client's interpretation of the facts and their view of them. We all find ourselves at some point struggling with a difficulty, unable to see a way out, because we're caught in the trap of our own making. We only have one way of interpreting events, and the interpretation hurts or upsets us. For example, I call my friend John, he's out. So I leave him a message, ask him to call me back. But he doesn't call. Ergo, in my dodgy thinking, he doesn't want to talk to me. I start to feel bad. This confirms what I already knew, that John doesn't really like me. Our friendship is a sham. I only have one viewpoint. John doesn't want to respond to me, and that viewpoint is limiting or hurtful. Left alone with these thoughts, and assuming that I'm unable to come up with some alternative and less damaging explanations on my own, I'm likely to fall foul of my own circular reasoning and dig an even bigger hole for myself. He didn't call me, therefore he doesn't want to speak to me, therefore there's no point in me calling him back, etc. Unless I can find some way of breaking this pattern, I'm stuck. The question to ask yourself when constructing a reframe is, what other meanings could be brought into this experience that could make it less harmful or even beneficial to the client? But a word of caution. We've all been on the receiving end of some well-intentioned advice of the every cloud has a silver lining type of thing. Such clumsy attempts to cheer somebody up usually fall on unreceptive ears and can actually make things worse because they don't agree with what the individual is thinking or feeling at the time. The key thing that differentiates reframing from this sort of well-meant comment is that the reframe is acceptable to the client. It seems plausible. At least it's not rejected by them because it matches events and fits just as well as their original and slightly dysfunctioning or limiting interpretation. So the alternative interpretation, the reframe, has to be plausible to me, otherwise I'm unlikely to accept it. Worse, I'll probably think you just haven't heard me. Reframing is a fundamental part of therapeutic conversations of all types because it can help the client start to break up their rigid patterns of thinking. You've managed to fill your time for a year. I'm not making the case for not working, but what I'm suggesting here is actually a nod to your resilience and your adaptability, because many men of your age actually handle that separation from full-time work poorly, with great difficulty, and you seem to have filled your time. It's not what you want to do, but it hasn't kind of finished you off or driven you into despair. It's always important to understand that choice exists. We don't necessarily have to exercise that choice, but we need to know there are other options. So the idea here is not to get the client to visibly agree with our reframes and suggestions or to thank us for our insightful comments, but by showing that we don't necessarily buy into their worldview, by speculating alternatives and then moving on, it can be a powerful intervention in itself.